Revolution. Long live the French.
Long live Stop the Steal.
Stop the
Stop the
count.
steal. Stop the steal.
Stop the
4
steal.
more years.
12
years.
more years.
How old is that man?
Who was the
Who's the what?
Was it Roosevelt that went for like 4 terms or something?
Yeah, that was FDR.
No,
Yeah.
sorry, no FDR.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Roosevelt is also FDR.
Yeah, Federal Delano
Yeah.
Roosevelt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Franklin Delano
Yeah, I
Roosevelt.
think, if I remember correctly, Eleanor Roosevelt, his cousin or something. But anyway.
Yeah, he won the he won the 4th term and died soon after.
Exactly.
Because World War II is being the president during World War II and the Great Depression is pretty stressful.
It's kind of crazy now that I think about it, because that means that dude was at least president for 12 years then.
Yeah.
In a row.
Yeah.
That's actually so weird to think about, because like when I think about it, it's like for me, it must be so interesting having a constitutional monarchy, because for like me, like I just know Obama, like for the most part. That's what I remember, and it was weird having a new president. I remember that in college when I was like saying, I was like, wait a minute, oh, it's not Obama anymore. Like I was so used to him for 8 years, and then
yeah, I like vaguely remember Bush.
Yeah.
I don't remember
because
Bush at all.
politics was big in my family.
see.
Like that's the only reason I remember Bush.
Yeah. I knew
don't
Cheney.
remember.
I didn't know Bush.
I do not remember Bush much at all. I don't remember 9/11.
Yeah, same. I don't remember.
I'm
it at all.
unpatriotic. Kill me now. I don't remember
Yes.
9/11. It's something that I read about in the history books. Unless
My God.
Yeah, I was too young.
Yeah.
I was too young for 9/11 to stick in my brain. Also, I'm not sure I saw it. I don't think I don't know.
I remember the
I
marathon
don't think I saw
bombing. I remember seeing the what did I see on TV in class one time? Oh, they showed us the Arab Spring. They showed us like a huge celebration and like the big protests in Tahrir Square. I think that's the name of it. The one in Cairo. I remember that.
Wasn't 9/11 like during the school day?
Oh, probably.
Something like
Yeah,
that?
Yes.
probably like in the morning.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah, I really feel like I didn't see it then. I mean, it was probably on repeat, but I don't think my parents like went out of the way to show me that.
I don't think they'd want you to see it.
All right, come over here. Sit down,
Hey,
son.
hey, do you see
We gotta
that?
show you
Those
something. We gotta show you what these
goddamn
Arabs are
terrorists
doing
did.
to our country.
Yeah, exactly. I like.
This is why the Patriot Act is necessary. You see,
Hey, you see?
we're gonna.
Good God, I can't even.
Dude, I bet some parents did
Oh,
that
totally.
though. Like sat their like young grade school kids down. And were like, "You need to learn why we're gonna go blow the shit out of
Oh
these
my
people."
God, yeah, I could imagine that so perfectly. Honestly,
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up.
honestly, if I had a kid and something like that happened, unless I absolutely needed to tell them, I just kind of like let them learn that at some point when they get older. Because like I don't think that's something I don't know. Kids are crazy because like you kind of need to like mature them up a little bit, but at the same time you're like. I don't know. You also don't want to at the same time.
When
Oh man, it's wild that our country's still feeling the effects of 9/11, like close to a decade or so,
Oh,
two
close
decades.
to 20 years after. I'm daft.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
2 decades now.
Especially now.
Almost.
because we're still fighting the effects of the Patriot Act, honestly.
And now with COVID-19, we're pretty much, at least the death toll of COVID-19, we're basically having a 9/11 every day now. In fact, I think we're
Yeah.
having 2 9/11s a day. I don't know. How many people died in 9/11? 3,000, I think. So, yeah, 1.
And it's like, I don't know, it still informs, it's like informed almost everything that we've done in the past 20 years as a country. Crazy.
It's affected public outlook. It's affected like pretty significantly our foreign policy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I feel like it let the government just get away with a lot of shit that it wanted to do in its foreign
but
policy,
never
but
could.
it wasn't. Yeah, the people wouldn't have been necessarily okay with before, and now we're like, yeah, fuck them,
Yeah.
go get them.
And if you're not willing to share everything about your life now, it's like, oh, so what have you got to hide? If you don't willing to share everything about your life, you must have something to hide. Because why else would you hide it?
Yeah, dude, the creepiest thing is the whole innocent people don't have anything to fear.
If you like, was it? If you aren't with us, you're with the terrorists. I believe George Bush made that quote at one point during the
Oh
War
my
on Terror.
God. Absolutely wild.
The axis of evil of North Korea, Iran, and Iraq. That's that speech during I believe, in the UN.
Yeah,
Lots of stuff.
it's pretty
Like, we're
wild.
still fighting the Taliban in Afghanistan, and
Well, like, yeah, we definitely
yeah,
are,
like,
and like the shit that like the government could get away with during that time. Now we're just used to it. You know, like all the drone strikes and stuff, and the executive action, executive military action, all that stuff that we did then. Now we're just used to, and it's not even questioned anymore.
No, it's basically normal now.
mhm.
Like Obama's drone strike record was a meme, and Trump's actually topped it. Trump's had more drone strikes than Obama did.
Yeah, and like even those numbers
And
are kind of like, at least in my opinion, like it's just, it doesn't even really matter. Like, the presidency is relevant. It's just state policy. Like, it gets to the point where it's just a continuation of defense spending when it comes to some of that type of stuff too, which is the worst part about it, at least for me.
can you elaborate? What do you mean by that?
Like, a large portion of the State Department is tied to things outside of what a president may choose to do. It's more so like focused around obligations that are already established, probably even like multiple presidencies prior. And then stuff like defense spending budgets can be used as like an example would be Vietnam, where like they talk a lot about how like a lot of the arms and stuff that we drop are from like contracts that we've already established, defense companies and things like that, like things that you can't, like, we need to use that supplies for something. So, and then it gets to the point where we just start just dumping resources to those areas, because like we almost have like it's completely outside the executive's reach to even interfere with that, except for like kind of like stuff during like the impeachment trial, where they can maybe coerce them into doing other things by like withholding defense resources, like with Trump's he was withholding defense resources to Ukraine to try to get them to investigate the Bidens in Ukraine and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But like, even then, that stuff is still going to Ukraine. Like, just like how there's always going to be stuff going to the Afghan government that we helped establish there, and then we're always going to have a military presence there and in Iraq. That's more so what I mean by like, it's a continuation of policy.
Yeah. Do you think that's like lobbying as well?
Oh,
plays into that.
It ties into like the whole network.
Or the
more
defense.
So. Yeah.
The defense contractors are getting money because we're spending. We're paying them for their supplies that we're sending over there.
It's like a
and
self-feeding
then they're like,
loop,
"Oh, you can't
basically.
stop doing that."
It just keeps looping into itself, and that kind of just continues to carry forward.
I'm sure everyone gets their palms greased along the chain too.
Yeah. This seems like I think we've talked about this before, but this seems like goes into the trend of authoritarianism within the United States, starting with the Patriot Act after 9/11, and then the more and more powers that were normally associated with Congress, like declaring war, going to the presidency. Basically, Bush and Obama were the ones going through war in Iraq, Afghanistan, among other places, to now with Trump and inciting the insurrection. more and more exponential growth towards authoritarianism.
Like the concern of
Yeah.
rising authoritarianism, like kind of like I guess I shouldn't say authoritarian, but maybe illiberal, because I feel like illiberal and anti-democratic are more tied to their actions, more so. Mostly liberalism, like the idea of an illiberal democracy, kind of like in Russia or Belarus. I think might be a good example too.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that basically the definition of fascism?
Illiberal democracy.
Yeah.
Fascism, in a general sense, is more so like it's like almost like a anti-establishment, like ultra populist / authoritarian model. Like almost like it's kind of hard to. It's not really illiberal democracy. I feel like more so in a general sense, it more ties to the complete rejection of democratic practices in general. Like for like for some fascists, they believe that the very idea of a democracy is almost like a degenerate, effeminate type of government that like undermines like the kind of like mass movement potential of a people. Like for like a Mussolini Hitler-esque example, for them it's like you need to use paramilitaries to. Well, I guess this kind of ties in a little bit with the whole congressional storming thing. Like you need to like rally the people in like a popular sense in order to like force like the populace's will as like a single nation onto the government, and then like being led by like usually like a singular figure or like a great historical figure and stuff like that. It's very tied to like ethno-nationalism, with the idea that like you kind of like eliminate those institutions. It's usually like an anti-establishment institution, fascism and stuff like that. Like communism is another good anti-establishment ideology that can kind of tie into like the mentality of most fascism. It's like the idea that you need war to like create the type of new society in which your people will then be the new superior like group amongst all others. And then
Aren't there actually like quite a lot of parallel principles between fascism and communism?
they have like certain elements about them that are shared pretty. Like you could like from a general sense they kind of combine with each other really well. I'm trying to remember what
I
exactly
think they're
it
similar,
was.
but they're also like fascism also involves aspects of capitalism.
Yeah, it's kind of like how like
Kind of like a bastard.
like Raj was explaining this to me about like from Marx's point of view, like how there's like there's from him he thinks like is something like the goods and the money that starts creating like this like endless loop in capitalism, which is like there's like something about the exchange that Marxism thought it was like something a little bit different. It's like the same thing with communism and fascism, at least from like a general sense, because of course now if you go into nuanced ideology, then there's always contradictions of what I'm saying somewhere. But like, it's like this. It's like something about the difference between the people that is tied to. Because if I remember correctly, for communism, it's like the entire idea of like the single class, the workers, without like any like ethnic boundaries, need to like overthrow the bourgeoisie establishment. From a general sense, that's what it is. But it's not like that's like a more Marxist-Leninist mentality where like they need to do it now, while Marx is like kind of like create the template on how they could create utopia eventually, if I understand correctly. While in most fascism, I'm using Italian and German fascism specifically because I feel like those are like the two most people are thinking about when they say fascism. It's more ethno-nationalism. Like it's not that it's these workers as a class are taking over. It's the Italian like mega ethno group, be it the Germanic peoples, so anybody from like the UK all the way to like Sweden and Germany, all those people as a group need to come together to become this great and all-encompassing like super state, and then like dominate the world or whatever else comes next. But then for communism, it's the class itself needs to break itself out of its servitude. I'm thinking like off the top of my head, but does that make sense?
Yeah.
That does. I think we're especially the nationalistic and anti-democratic parts of fascism. I think we're seeing that more and more now.
Yeah, it's just like it's hard for me as like a it's hard for me to like label it as fascism. Like I think liberalism is like maybe like anti-democratic is strong, but like it's just I don't know. Like fascism to me is a very strong word. Like it kind of implies this idea that they've like fully rejected the idea of like any form of establishment for the most part, except for of course like stuff like capitalism or something like that, like elements of it. Like it's usually like seen as like like I can see it's a hard thing for me to answer because like
Yeah, there's like parts of it that meet well with fascism, but other parts that don't. That
yeah,
makes
it's just
sense.
for me it's such an overused
So-
term in the media that I think I almost in my mind I almost like have a bias to not label something as that just because of how often it's used even just outside of the events of the Capitol storming. I feel like if they were to have only used fascist at the time of the Capitol storming in American media, I'd probably more inclined to agree with what you were saying, but it's just they said it so often that it's just hard for me to like understand exactly what they mean when they say it right now, as opposed to when they used to say it before. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that makes sense. To be clear, I'm not saying that it's straight up fascism.
Yeah,
So
Definitely become
I just think it's elements of it are
I can
there.
agree. with that.
diluted term.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
that's what
Same
I'm
with
getting at.
communism,
Yeah,
honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
And Nazis.
Oh yeah.
communism's been confused since the Soviet Union, to be honest.
The moment Lenin succeeded in his in the like in the October Revolution, it's kind of like caused like some pretty major splits within like communist like theory. I could imagine.
And then when Stalin ultimately took the reins,
Yeah, and then stuff like that, and then the Civil War just ruined it honestly for Russia for the most part, and then like combined with like just like the general conditions of Russia on the ground and like Marx's idea of what was supposed to be the conditions that would create a communist like state. China
Communism equals socialism
equals
equals bad.
Venezuela, I think you mean.
Yeah,
who is that?
And bad.
Oh my god.
Communism and socialism, same thing.
Wait, did we even start an intro for this?
Yes.
No, we're just going for
Hey
it.
guys, welcome to the generic Lucky Shoe. This is Liquid Snake. I don't know Marcus's name on this. I'm sorry.
The MC of Lucky's, man, and we got the shoe,
Yes, but we started
The
this
one.
much earlier.
the only.
The sh-
Yeah, we did.
The shoe.
We're just kind of doing whatever. But yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
This is our unstructured podcast where we talk about things.
Yes.
Things.
Couldn't we edit it later?
Yeah, for sure.
Or with it?
Wait, so is this
I edited it.
is this the first time we've talked about the Capitol storming on the podcast then?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think Raj has been in a lot of in the most recent ones, and he doesn't like politics.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I know he does not.
To be fair, who doesn't? Who actually out there loves politics?
Yeah, I don't know about loves. I enjoy paying attention to it because I have like a morbid curiosity to it, but I don't think I love it.
I mean, it's entertaining at times.
Yeah.
Still,
Yes.
I don't know. Raj just finds it boring, I guess.
I guess for
Or like
like
a
the
TV show drama, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it just unfortunately this TV show drama is happening here.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to dissociate myself a bit whenever I'm consuming news or whatever, just to not go crazy.
Yeah, I can understand that. I guess for the uninitiated, does anybody want to explain what exactly happened at the Capitol storming? Matt, do you want to explain it?
Matt, you got this.
Well, for those that have been living under a rock like I have been for about a week now, on January 6th, there was a Stop the Steal march on near the Capitol. It, to put it lightly, got out of hand, and thousands of people got past the security gates while Congress was counting the electoral votes to confirm Biden's victory.
And stop the steal as in because the election got stolen from Trump. But I want to throw that in there.
Supposedly. So they got past security, and the lawmakers had to stop their session and evacuate the building. Or some evacuated, but some others were, I think, going down to like secret underground tunnels or something like that. And Capitol Police were there. People broke inside the Capitol, desecrating a lot of stuff, breaking some stuff, taking selfies. Some people went inside Speaker Pelosi's office, among other people's offices, stole some laptops, took selfies in there, posted it on social media.
I wonder if she wiped her stuff before bugging out.
No, probably not. Yeah, somebody took a picture of her computer, which had Outlook still open. Her email.
Oh.
Shit. More like fuck.
Yeah, good God.
Yeah.
Windows L, guys. Windows L.
Dude, and then say the FBI must be like on like super mode right now.
Are you trying to track down those? Find my laptop.
They start pushing all of it.
Find my iPad. They're like calling
my God.
Steve Jobs' grave.
I wonder if they would just like freeze it. Like, would they just like at that point just like, I don't know, like blacklist the server for like a day or something, and then just like.
Well, you would hope it would be hooked up to something that could do that. I don't know.
And then like just do a sit rep or something.
How much forethought they put into their email systems and laptop systems.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you've stolen the laptop, I think. Well, they probably use BitLocker or something like that. So they need to know the PIN code to get in and the password. Passwords themselves are actually really easy to brute force because they're. Yeah. I don't know, but BitLocker pins are obviously not because they're encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't know.
Eventually,
people can find their ways around it, though. I gotta imagine.
Yeah. National Guard was eventually called, obviously, and the insurrection was quelled. It took a while, though, for them to come, though. Very suspicious. A long time now that, according to the FBI, there's a possibility that members of Congress may have helped the protesters with the day before. There's witnesses that supposedly saw some members of Congress showing the rioters around the Capitol, like where secret underground tunnels are, places to go, stuff like that.
Wow.
And the Capitol Police seem to be slow as well. There's pictures of Capitol Police taking selfies with some of the protesters while they were inside the Capitol.
Was there current reps or former reps that were part of the Capitol storming as well? Like,
yeah. In fact, one of them, I think, a state representative from Pennsylvania, I forget where, I believe was arrested.
Yeah, did he straight up? One of them like straight up streamed himself being there.
Yeah. I forget his name, but I know who you're talking about.
I remember seeing that on the news the day after.
Yeah. I believe the National Guard is still there, too. They're going to be there through the end of the month.
Yeah, there were so many that were deployed there. Do you guys remember the exact number that were there for like the inauguration? Because I can't remember off the top of my head.
At least 25,000. It was initially like 10,000, and then it just kept bumping up, as the FBI found more and more threats. After January 6th, there were messages all over Twitter, Facebook, Parler about a second insurrection there and across all 50 state capitals. So the National Guard presence there just kept gradually going up, and up to at least 25,000. At least from what I remember.
My God.
Did anything crazy happen that day?
No.
That
No.
I know
Went
of.
down.
Thankfully. There was I think the day of, there was like a fire or something nearby, but at first it was thought to be malicious, but it turned out it was basically just a bunch of homeless people that started a fire and it got out of control.
Makes sense.
So, nothing malicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the 25,000 deterred any people returning.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty sizable force. So
Yeah. And I think the people that participated, many of them were placed on a no-fly list. So then the FBI could apprehend them.
Yeah, and I could
good
imagine,
old no-fly list.
and I could imagine that like a good portion of the people that were actually there, outside of like the really actually determined people, or like the ones that may have been like pre-planning with those possible congressional people that you're talking about. For the most part, I think a lot of people may have like inadvertently just got caught in the momentum. Because it's pretty easy to when you're in like a large group like that. So like I could imagine once like the bad press started coming out, a lot of those that like portion probably maybe like a couple weeks afterwards, or like maybe just like a week afterwards, especially when people started getting arrested, which I think is the most important part. They maybe were demotivated, like to actually try to attempt like a second one, especially like those people that are talking about like the big plots like across like the whole country and stuff like that. Especially like you were saying, once they started really deploying, it's 25,000 National Guard. I'm gonna search up the population quick, because that's where we're from. If anybody's curious, but what is it? Population. 60,000.
I think it's
So it's around 50% of the population of. That's a lot of National Guards in one town.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And
they get past them, you're going to need even more people. And even if you do somehow attain more than 25,000 people to push past or whatever, they could probably just call more National Guard from other states. I'm sure other states would be willing to help out.
And also implies that there's a one-to-one parody of a National Guard to a normal person protesting.
Yeah, that's true. With National Guardsmen that are armed with rifles.
And are also like actually like straight up just holding. They made like those giant wire fences and walls up around the Capitol for the inauguration. Like they like a lot of pre-planning compared to the Capitol Police that clearly were either told or were not ready for just how quickly it escalated.
Wasn't one of the protesters shot? Or I guess rioters.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw the video. They were trying to get into where I think where the lawmakers were, something like that, and a Secret Service member shot them before she could.
Yeah, when you look at the footage of it,
get
Marcus,
through the barrier.
because I'm assuming you haven't seen it then. It's
No.
They were like they convinced like the two. There was like this big kind of like door that was all barricaded, and there was these two cops standing in front of it, where all the protesters at this point have already like breached pretty far into the building. And then they were like telling them like get out of the way, and then when they finally get out, they all just started bashing at the window trying to get the door open. Like they all just started swinging at it. I think there's like two people that are predominantly swinging at it, but it was like all barricaded. And then all of a sudden, like kind of like little bit behind the door, you could see somebody with a gun. You couldn't hear anything that he was saying from the video, but it was pretty clear that he was waiting for a while. And they were like, he's got a gun, and they kept swinging at the door, and then he finally just shot, and then I don't really know what happened afterwards. I think that's when the video ends.
Yeah, I think she died from her injuries.
Yeah, she died.
I assume it was a rifle.
It was a pistol.
No, it was a pistol.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, person was in a suit, so that's why I presume it's a Secret Service agent.
Makes sense. That sucks.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
what's the number, right? 5 in total, as far as I remember.
5 in total. What?
Fatalities at the storming.
Yeah.
I think one was a police officer too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. It is a fucking miracle that not so many more people died that day.
Yeah, that's the police really holding back on that one. I mean, like, I'm surprised that they let them into the Capitol without opening fire.
Yeah. Very sus as
Yeah, that's
fuck.
why, when you look at the footage, Marcus, it's just weird, because, they didn't really do anything. I mean, like, if you look at some of the footage, especially when on, like, the ground level, like, yeah, there was a lot of cops that were, like, information pushing back against the Trump protesters who were pushing them. Like, in, like, kind of like these big, almost, like, human, like, just meat walls, almost like a phalanx, just pushing against each other. But, yeah, just other places, there just wasn't enough people, I guess. Like, there's areas where you just see one cop and, like, there's, like, 40 or, like...
What is he gonna do?
Yeah, like 40 or 30 people. He's got a little baton. He's got 40 or 30 people, and they're already inside the building. He's just going up the staircases over and over again while these people are chasing him.
Yeah.
Like...
And what's he gonna do? Get his pistol out and start shooting them?
he would have died.
Clearly just got overwhelmed, it seems like. And then I guess they just weren't willing to use the... Like the force multipliers available to them, because maybe, like, the people around them just... Maybe, like, the people around them didn't, and then all of a sudden it just kind of started spilling over, and they just weren't ready. Yeah, that's weird. Like, I think one picture I remember from the protest really well was that one of the protesters that got into, like, the inner sanctum, like, kind of like, it's like the place where they do stuff like the State Union, kind of looks like one of those rooms. I can't think of the exact name for that room that he was in specifically, but he had, like, a huge handful of zip ties, like those, like, ones they use for, like, subduing hostages, like, kind of like the stuff that police would have. It's like, it specifically looks like a cuff, but it's like a zip tie.
Yeah.
Like, he had, like, a whole handful of them in one of his hands, and he was just, like, all up in black clothing. Like, he's got black face mask, helmet, and then, like...
In military gear on him, too. I think with knives and
yeah,
so
all
forth.
sorts of stuff, and he had just a whole bundle of zip ties and stuff like that. And it was just, like what Matt was saying, it's kind of crazy that nothing else actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's still depressing as hell, man. Why are people doing this? I'm crazy. Everyone's getting so riled up.
If there is any silver lining, it doesn't seem like anything did actually happen, like, afterwards. Like, all the crazy planning and all the stuff that people were talking about that they may do at, like, states like Michigan or during the inauguration. At least
I was honestly really surprised that there weren't.
Oh my god,
there wasn't shit erupting all over the country after that. I was really expecting more.
Yeah, my mom was, like, telling me, like, oh, what's happening in the news? Tell me, because, like, sometimes she wants me to translate or, like, explain to her some of the stuff in simpler terms that's happening in the news. And then, like, I was sitting here like, oh my god, yeah, it's weird to explain this to my mom sometimes. Where it's like, oh no, it's like, yeah, they stormed the Capitol, and then, like, especially when, like Marcus, did you ever see the video or the audio of Trump's speech at the rally prior to the Capitol storming?
Matt sent me that Twitter feed where this guy, like, summarized the speech.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't see the original, no.
Like, you probably know the general gist of it, though, right? Like, we're gonna march, I'm gonna march with you, we're gonna make sure, like, Pence does the right thing, that type of stuff.
Yeah, didn't Pence need to get evacuated? Like, that ass?
Oh, yeah, he's the vice president.
Yes, there were people... Yeah, there were people saying, execute Mike Pence, or something like that. Or hang Mike Pence.
Yeah, I think it was hang.
And then they created a fucking nuke outside the...
Noose.
Not nuke, noose outside the Capitol. There's a picture of that.
Jesus.
Yes. Again, fucking miracle that we didn't lose, like, all of Congress or half of Congress that day.
if they manage to spill over into the building, maybe like an hour faster or something like that, and then maybe if they were like more concentrated, just like a little bit more on like the specific goal that they had and knew which way to get to it, like quickly, they could have probably easily have taken at least somebody important. And then at that point, there's no telling what could happen with mob mentality. It doesn't mean something guaranteed would happen, but it could easily escalate into something.
Yeah. Well, people were clearly very galvanized that day.
Exactly.
You don't know. It's unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's wild that they got Nancy Pelosi's email. Because literally open. So, like, they don't even... Before we were talking about, like, encryption and passwords and stuff, they don't need any of that. Because it was literally... Her email was fucking open.
Yes.
They literally, like... They don't need passwords or anything. Like, that's a lot. There's a lot in an email.
Yep.
Yep. That's wild.
That's how fast that they were... they had to flee. It happened that fast. They literally had no time to just... even close the laptop.
Yeah, they said like there's like some crazy personal stories about like journalists and people like getting harassed while they were inside the Capitol just doing normal day work stuff, and then like people like once the protesters came in and started like hassling them, they're asking like, oh, what journal you're a part of, like what kind of like media do you work for, and then when they like saw that, like I think it was like one of the people there, like her badge was I think like CBS or something like that. They just destroyed her camera or something like that and started running, stuff like that. It's just like,
dude, I'm surprised she didn't get messed up.
Yeah,
killed.
People really don't like the news. People on both sides don't like the news.
Yeah, I saw something similar with the CNN crew. They were forced to leave by the crowd.
Yeah, especially the ones outside. Like when you see some of the stuff that happened outside, a lot of areas like you know how like usually for like large public stuff, the media usually have like these big setups where all the cameras are at with all the different people, and they're all like saying their story or recording what's happening. Like a lot of those places got completely vandalized by like the crowd and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wouldn't dare doing that if I was a news station.
It's a hell of a job sometimes.
Yeah. It's not a good time to be a reporter, man. It's not.
Yeah. A lot of the reporters I noticed that were being sent out after the rioters got started were young, like our age. Like CNN or whatever was sending out the young interns instead of the more experienced reporters.
They can run faster, probably.
Oh my god! They're like, you're just fresh out of college, or like maybe you're still in college, and then you get your first internship at CNN. They're like, "All right, what do I have to do? You're gonna be at the Capitol, knee deep in the Trump protest."
Yeah, I'm at Johnny. I got your first assignment after your training.
Yeah, I got
go to the Capitol. Something interesting going on over there.
A star quarterback and a journalist major apply for the job. The star quarterback gets it. Why did I get the job? we read that you're a real fast runner.
Or one's like the actual journalism intern, and then next to you is like a guy straight out of like that like former military contractor company, like Blackwater or something like that, just to keep an eye on you. He's like, why is this guy with me? Oh, nothing in particular.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just formality.
Yeah. Everybody there were kids like our age.
Yeah.
Or probably interns or fresh out of school.
Man. Next election's gonna be crazy.
Bro, honestly, yeah, the next 4 years is like it's really like I feel like momentum's like a really important thing, because if they have like stuff to kind of like use as a foundation for their gripe still, then the next election or even the midterms can be nuts, because right now there is no Senate majority, right? But then technically the Democrats have it because of Kamala, if I understand correctly, because she'd behave as a tiebreaker in a 50-50 split.
Yeah, but they still need to agree on power splitting, since it's, besides putting that aside, technically exactly 50-50 split.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why like there's like it's pretty easy for potential gridlock to form, and then with like like how big some of Biden's promises are right now, there's going to need to be some form of compromise. But if they don't really have a leg to stand on, or if there's enough popular support to reject compromise, like maybe something dumb happens, like I don't know, just like anything, honestly. Like maybe the COVID stuff, it gets dumb, the vaccine doesn't work, or like another protest breaks out, or like maybe like QAnon goes crazy or something like that after Trump finally says something after he's done being a ghost after the Capitol storming. Or
Mhm.
like just anything, and then like if like Biden has like a bad gaffe or something like that, then that's all they sometimes need to just shift anything, because it's such a tight power scale right now. So like, and then let alone the next 4 years, if something really dumb happens, then I don't know, either Trump can run, or plenty of people that have kind of learned from his kind of like his style that got so popular, his marketing tropes that got him to where he is. They could be easily inspired by how he got to the presidency, or even just do it at a lower level.
There's talks right now of rumors that Trump may break away from the Republican Party and form his own party.
Yeah.
He would call it the Patriot Party.
Honestly, I don't even think he needs to split from the Republican Party. Like,
You might need to now that he called for like the
honestly,
ousting
dude,
of the traitor Republicans,
but,
you know.
like honestly, I think like give it like literally like 2 months or even less than that. Because like I think from like McConnell's speech he already made, I didn't listen to it, but I saw the dislike, so I kind of already know what happened. But like, it's pretty clear that they're trying to normalize things. Like we got our little truce because of this Capitol storming, and we finally managed to denounce this kind of like political outsider at least a little bit, even though we know his influence has already affected the party. But like, they're still going to focus on their in groups, and like, and it's still like for the most part heavily a Tea Party Trump party in the Republican kind of like centers of discourse for like how the public perceives it and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't think he needs to leave the party. I just think as long as he just doesn't do anything crazy, or maybe honestly, maybe that might even work. Honestly, just like to get his supporters up again. But like,
Yeah.
if he just like chills for a bit, lets the kind of like run of the mill political gripe stuff that we don't remember from the past 4 years because we had Trump to distract us from how U.S. politics usually feels like. If he like just lets that kind of settle in, and then maybe gridlock kicks in, McConnell does his little magic, Biden.
Honestly, for most of Trump's 4 years, did it feel all that much different though?
Well,
from usual politics.
It's just the media made it like probably from like a public sense have like all like kind of like this different, like this perception of a different energy to it. I'm not saying it was actually different.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about it from a media perception, like from how it's like consumed the American politics is what I'm trying to say. Not that it actually was different.
Yeah.
I think people on
Right.
Yeah. People are just gonna keep getting more desperate as time goes on. And getting pushed farther and farther. Yeah.
It's a very definite possibility.
Reports right now are that Trump feels betrayed by the Republican Party, and if that's true, trying to split up the GOP may be his way of enacting revenge against them.
Yeah.
Because that would split, even if he splits it up just by a few percentage points, then the Republican votes, that would be enough to almost make it that much more likely for Democrats to win almost everywhere.
Yeah, it's a common thing with U.S. third parties that get popular that all they end up doing is splitting the vote, and then causing minority popularities to actually win. Like Woodrow Wilson was a good example, because that was when Teddy Roosevelt split the Republican vote by forming the Bull Moose Party, and because Teddy was Teddy, a lot of people ended up still voting for him. So like it ended up just splitting the Republican vote between Bull Moose and Republicans. So Woodrow Wilson, the Democrat, won the election.
Now we need Bernie Sanders to split off and Trump to split off, and then we can have two more parties that can split the votes, and then it might actually be a toss-up.
Oh, that'd be one hell of a thing to live through. For like,
could you imagine like the first actual like multi-party race?
It's honestly, it'd be kind of crazy if Trump was like the catalyst for shattering the two establishment parties. But I don't think it's really dependent on the next 4 years. But yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
If that somehow happened, like something like that, where you actually managed to even come close to breaking the two-party rule, that'd be pretty wild.
Be nuts.
Yeah. I think all of a sudden Trump would go down as a Democratic hero.
Or like, or at least like a historical.
Not on purpose, maybe, but
or a historical turning point at least for like how our democracy developed. If there's something like that actually did happen, because that'd be pretty significant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Republican split has already begun. I think it's already begun. I don't know how long it'll take for it to be complete. But I'm convinced that regardless what happens to the Democratic Party, the Republican Party is probably going to go similar to how the Whig Party went. There was the pro-slavery and anti-slavery parts of it that just could not reconcile with each other, and they split up anti-slavery into the, ironically now, the Republican Party. I think the Republican Party is destined to follow a similar path between the pro-Trump and the anti-Trump.
Ironically, because the Republicans are pro-slavery?
No, ironic because that's exactly how the Republican Party was born, through the turmoil, through the end of the Whig Party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I was just.
Well, it's like they called
the Republican Party.
I was clipping you out of context. That's all.
It's just like they called them. They constantly like to advertise themselves as the Party of Lincoln, which is true. But then it kind of like creates like a false representation of what their party sometimes is about, I guess. In some senses.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially to a Democrat, probably.
I think if nothing changes with the Democratic Party, then ultimately they're also probably going to collapse between currently the centrist moderate party that still views capitalism as ultimately a good thing, and the Socialist Democratic Party run by top leaders would be like AOC, Bernie Sanders, that view the current capitalistic foundations of our society as a bad thing.
There's definitely a pretty serious generational gap between the two parties, I think.
Yeah. Or at least among support. If you look at younger people, they tend to favor more the Socialist Democrats. The baby boomers and older tend to align more with the traditional centrist Democrats.
I mean, socialism isn't necessarily mutually exclusive from capitalism either. I think that's a important point.
That's true.
They're not completely mutually exclusive. I mean, socialism generally functions in capitalist countries still.
Yeah, I think when Matt's bringing that up, he's not saying that like there needs to be an elimination of capitalism,
like
just how
laissez-faire.
Yeah, just how to treat capitalism, basically, like how to treat the market. I think is the more important part.
Yeah, I should have been a little bit more careful.
Yeah, because by being social democratic, they're already not espousing like accelerationist revolutionary rhetoric. Like they're not saying to establish a vanguard party or something like Marxist-Leninism. Like social democrat already implies that they're willing to work within the democratic structure.
And I think if you listen to Bernie, he's not even like in favor of ever going to communism.
Yeah, he's more
like,
so.
That's not he's not viewing it as a stepping stone.
Yeah, they're very clearly social democrats, where they still are willing to use democratic institutions to achieve the needed reform they believe needs to come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the conceptualization of the government being the referee, not a player. I don't know why I like that analogy so much because I'm not a sports fan, but it's kind of how I stand on.
It's an easily consumable analogy.
Stand on it. Yeah. I'm not sure I have it right. I think I have it right though. I know so little about sports. I'm not exactly sure what the referee does, but he calls out what is allowed or something. I don't know.
Well, he enforces the rules, is what a referee does, and he actually, I guess, he also calls it out and interprets when you are actually breaking the rules too. Like that's a pretty important job.
So, a referee that also like made the game, but doesn't play the game.
Yeah. It's getting more. It's starting to expand. No.
Yeah. Made part of a game.
Yeah.
Made part of the game, but other parts of the game, just are formed by nature.
Oh no.
I guess the analogy really breaks down once you try and put it into real execution.
Actually, to bring up another party split that happened in the U.S., because I remember Matt was actually bringing up some really good ones with the Whig Party. Another really big one was with the Democratic Party because of the Civil Rights Act. Because there was a serious split between the Northern Democrats and the Southern Democrats for pretty obvious reasons when it comes to segregation, I think. And then, so that's why once the Northern Democrats, the ones responsible for passing the Civil Rights Act, passed it, it caused a massive split, especially amongst public support in the South for the Democrat Party, because then for a lot of people in the South, they kind of perceive that party has now betrayed what they think is something that should still be maintained. So that's why when Nixon did his Southern strategy, I think that's what it's called, during his presidential campaign, he managed to get like a lot of extremely consistent Democratic supporters to vote Republican, and it's kind of caused the support base shift within the modern parties, because traditionally speaking, the Republican Party was actually a pretty progressive, more left-leaning party, considering that Teddy Roosevelt was president under it and stuff like that. But then now with the shift because of Nixon and stuff like that, it's kind of created the two parties we have today, at least in like a general sense. Now it's of course very different because now we have the influence of like the Tea Party and Palin and stuff like that, and then of course Trump being the biggest one right now for most recent.
So what you're saying is Nixon is the cause of all of our political pain.
Yes. Blame everything on Nixon.
Nixon's last fuck you from beyond the grave.
I'm not a crook.
I'm just double checking real quick that Nixon was a Republican. Okay, he was a Republican.
Yeah, he was a Republican, yeah.
Yeah, he was.
I learned that from Futurama.
It's surprising what you can learn from media and video games.
Dude, Futurama is a fantastic show.
Honestly, I really should watch that show more. I've only seen like a couple clips and then like a bunch of like YouTube videos just talking about just how good that show is.
It has my full endorsement. Like, I've probably watched it over a dozen times.
Well, dang.
Through. In fairness, a lot of those I was like doing homework or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just going on. But I've watched it with my full attention at least twice. And then a bunch while like not my current job, but like in previous jobs I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And while doing homework and stuff during school I watched it.
Yeah, like I watched a lot of How I Met Your Mother, like I used to. Now I don't even touch the show, and I couldn't even tell you like most of the plot. But I would almost entirely just watch that while I was studying or gaming, like in the background, because it got to the point where you watch it so many times that like you kind of just know where you're at, and you kind of just let it run, and then maybe wait for the episodes you actually like. It's like, oh, it's the Stella section or something like that, and you start watching it.
I'm dead ass to the point in Futurama where I can visualize the episode without looking at the screen, just by the audio. Like I hear the audio and like I know the exact scene and like every detail on that scene.
Marcus, my brother, he was built. He got like this really cool topographical map puzzle of Westeros and Essos for Game of Thrones. So while he was like updating me on it, he would always he was watching Game of Thrones in the background. I remember one time I saw like a tiny little frame of his tablet, like the little corner of it, and I knew he was watching he finished season 1, so he was getting to season 2, and it was like a golden goblet with like a hand, and I was like, "Are you at Blackwater? Like the Battle of Blackwater episode?" He said, "Yeah."
Oh my god.
Because of Cersei drinking her wine with Sansa, telling him that like, "Oh yeah, Ilan Payne's here to kill all of us if Stannis breaks in."
Perfect. I mean, that's still like a good season too. Shit.
Yeah, I remember a lot of the early season stuff of Game of Thrones. Like, I think probably from audio alone, I could probably kind of like what you're saying. Like, you see it so many times, and like, I guess like it kind of like remember it well too, because maybe you have like positive memories of the show or something like that.
Yeah.
So then like you're like, oh hey, it's this part. Oh, you're like that. So then like I don't know how many times I could just like hear like probably if I like hear a Tyrion line or something like that, I could probably tell you like either what season or what's happening. Not the episode probably, but I can tell you what's happening.
Yeah. Like what else is happening in the show at that time?
Yeah.
Well, reading the books also helps for sure.
Books are good.
Yeah.
The first 2 books were very solid. I especially after watching the TV show. I don't know if like by themselves they're good, because I only watched them after I got really into the TV shows. But I really liked reading the first 2 books.
They're better than the show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first 2 books.
Yeah, the first 2 books I think were better than the first 2 seasons, and they didn't change really much at all about the books in the first 2 seasons. But what small things they did change, I was like, why? Why did you change that?
There's just some stuff that's more engaging, like kind of like how he describes combat is actually really nice, like George R. R. Martin, like when they get attacked by the Mountain Men, it's like all from Tyrion's perspective, and he's like panicking. And I remember there's a part where he's talking about this great beast of a man in a giant fur cloak charging them with all of the other tribesmen. But and then once the fighting's over, he looks back at that giant lumbering monster of a man that was charging him, and it's like he's just as like frail as the other tribesmen, and his sword is like completely warped and destroyed. And it's just like, because like it's from a first person perspective, it allows him to like kind of create like a much more vivid, more like personal image of what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Tyrion has to fight at the Vanguard and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is wild.
Oh, when he's
where
in
he's
that
like
duel.
thinking that he's like being a total badass, like slaying everyone.
Oh,
And,
dude, like remember his
like-
duel he won with the knight? He dove his own helmet into the horse.
yeah,
I forgot about that until right now. That duel was amazing to read about. Like, and you just don't get that in the show.
Oh, the battle at the Blackwater was really underwhelming for me in the show,
yeah.
honestly. But
But yes,
yeah, especially the beach scene. Like, what? It felt so weird.
man.
Like the beach was so small.
I like how we went from talking about the Capitol storming to Game of Thrones, but anyway.
Yeah, I've been resisting talking about Rome this entire time.
Oh, have you been staying in the podcast? Like the
No, I actually haven't listened to it for the past like week because it's I don't know,
Oh, I mean, it's all
not
good.
been listening to it. But
But you should like finish
Yeah.
it though.
but like I don't know, this reminds me of the Gracchi brothers. I feel like if I was to put a place in Rome history that I feel like we're at in our republic, it'd be the Gracchi brothers right now.
It's a good reflection of it, I think.
You want to do you know enough about the Gracchi brothers to summarize it?
Oh, the Gracchi brothers?
Yeah.
For the most part, I can try to. Like, do you want to try it out?
Do I want to? Yeah. So the Gracchi brothers were like kind of the first populist political figures in Rome, and I think they actually did storm the Senate. They were the first ones to storm the Senate building, weren't they?
I don't know about storming the Senate building, or like first ones too, but definitely utilized a lot of like mob mentality type of things, and like
Yeah, and like street mobs and fights.
like breaking the rules too, like the normality stuff, especially with like the Tribune's veto. Anyway, you can go for it.
Mhm. I don't think I remember enough either now that I've started.
Okay, well,
But
yeah.
I don't know, like the populist political movement that uses mob violence as a tool, as a political tool.
So like the Gracchi brothers were kind of like two really important political figures in the late Roman Republic. They kind of like got importance after the Punic Wars, where like so many citizens were fighting abroad that the new landed elite managed to basically accumulate so much wealth by either buying out their holdings or buying like so many of the captured slaves from like all the campaigns to basically make like super plantations. I can't remember the name of the super plantations, but yeah.
Is this where... Oh shit, who was the guy in the first triumvirate that would like literally stand outside people's houses with a fire brigade and wait
Crassus,
until they paid him?
Right?
Is this when Crassus was going on too?
Yes.
It is, right?
Pompey and Crassus are both like extremely late stage like late Roman Republic people. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head if either of them would have been alive, but I don't think they would be during Tiberius's times. I don't think so.
Or not Tiberius, Gracchi's.
Yeah, the Tiberius Gracchus and the other brother. I can't think. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And then, but what is it?
Yeah, they're probably like 100 years after or something.
Yeah, because it goes Marius, Sulla, and then Pompey.
Yeah.
And then I know Pompey was...
it's like 100 years before Crassus.
Yeah, Pompey and Crassus.
Fucking Crassus, man.
Pompey would still be with Crassus because he was part of the first triumvirate. So...
Yeah. Was he around at the... Tiberius?
He fought in the... I don't think Tiberius, but Crassus and Pompey both fought in the Spartacus revolt.
Okay.
So that'd be Sulla's time. So probably not when Tiberius was alive. Or either that or they'd be like stupid young.
I think Crassus is like 100 years after the Gracchi.
Yeah, there's probably a much bigger gap of time than we realize there is.
Yeah. When Crassus is... What a memer.
Oh, I love
literally got a fire brigade, could put out the fire whenever. Literally sits outside someone's house and is like, yeah, I'm not going to put out this fire until you pay me and promise to give me all of the land that I'm about to save.
Yeah, was he the wealthiest man in Rome at the time too?
Yeah. He was the wealthiest man, like, probably ever to exist.
Oh yeah, at least, especially at the time, probably. But like outside of like maybe like a Chinese emperor or something like that, or Mansa Musa.
I think he's richer, like had more wealth equivalent to at the time than anyone does today.
Probably something crazy, but like I know that
he owned he owned pretty much all of the land. All of the land was him. Because he literally wouldn't save people's houses from burning down unless they gave him the land then paid him rent.
This is the thing though, Marcus. I feel like the scale gets kind of crazy of the emperors to the point where, at least for a Roman citizen, the emperors probably still heavily surpassed them eventually, because Augustus personally governed Egypt, if I remember correctly.
That is true, yeah.
So I guess there's a point where like his wealth, maybe as like a Roman citizen, like before the emperors, and as like a private citizen, he probably was the wealthiest, especially at the time, probably. But and then once Augustus comes to being, or like people like Mansa Musa or the Chinese emperors, like I can't even imagine how much wealth they had in comparison to like other places. It like Augustus personally had domain over Egypt, the breadbasket of the entire empire.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Gracchi brothers.
The
rich got like basically managed to like consolidate like a crazy amount of the Italian like farmland, because an important thing prior to that was a lot of the soldiers and even like a lot of the private citizens. I think you even have to be a landed citizen in order to even be in the army, because you have to pay for your own equipment still, if I remember correctly. So that's why like this caused like a pretty significant like societal breakdown of like what traditionally Rome was, with like these huge new plantations breaking out, and then Tiberius, the first one, and then his brother later, like really played into that like extreme populist sentiment against the new like extremely wealthy elite that were kicking off a lot of landed people from their own land. So then like he promised like a lot of land reform, he promised like all these really big things, and then he used stuff like the tribune's veto to basically shut down Roman government. Like he would just veto everything that was going through the tribune.
Technically legal, but not.
It was never done. Yeah.
Yeah. They had the power to do
So,
it
like,
technically, but
Yeah,
nobody did that.
It was extremely taboo to do something
So,
like that.
like, the filibuster.
Yeah, it was like an ultra filibuster because, like, while a filibuster kind of like buys time, like it just like Strong Thurmond, what like his filibuster under the Civil Rights Act, like a part of the delegation was like a really long time. I can't remember how many hours, but yeah, while a filibuster can stall, a tribune's veto vetoes it. Like it is God. That policy that was supposed to be done, it's no longer being discussed anymore. So, like,
Was there any way to override the veto, like there is with our constitution?
from what I understand, from how much of a, from what I remember from like learning about Tiberius, there wasn't anything within the like republic at the time that could cancel out a tribune's veto, if I remember correctly.
Not that I remember either.
And now we know why the founders put an override explicitly in our constitution.
Absolutely. There's another example of why they did that was in the Kingdom of Poland. Just a little tangent. There was the nobility were given this privilege called liberum veto, which was the same thing as the tribune's veto. It was an absolute veto. I can't imagine what kind of compromise the king had to do to give the nobility that type of power, but it was incredible because then all a Russian emperor had to do to troll the Polish king was to pay like a sympathetic noble or a very greedy noble a pretty good amount of money, or just not threaten to raid his country, like his territory, to make him liberum veto just everything that's going through his policies. And then it caused incredible gridlock within the Polish monarchy. But anyway, yeah, the same thing was happening in Rome, and then it got to the point where like it started to get like a lot more like paramilitary and like mob like action between I think what were the terms? The Ultimates and the Populares were the two factions that would grow out of it. The Populares being the ones that supported Tiberius Gracchus and land reform and represented like a lot of the veterans and people that were completely screwed over by Rome's campaigns and lost their land, and then the Optimates that represent like the landed elite and the like aristocratic senators. And yeah, it's kind of seen as like a watershed moment for Roman politics because it got like much more violent with I think 2 tribunes being killed, if I remember correctly, because there was one tribune that was accidentally killed by Tiberius Gracchus's supporters, and then later during like a rally, Tiberius was making like a hand motion to his supporters that made it look like he was pointing to a crown, like an invisible crown on his head. So the senators, or at least this was their justification, like were saying, "Oh my God, he wants to become king." And then, like, of course, like the Romans ousted their monarchy to form the Republic, so it's like seen as extremely taboo to even talk about wanting to be a monarch in any shape or form. So they all rallied up together and went out and just beat Tiberius Gracchus to death, just straight up in public. And then his brother carried the torch. I don't exactly remember what his brother did, but he was also killed. And then that kind of led to like the two like huge factions that would kind of like constantly fight and lead to like more and more like intense paramilitary competition, like kind of like the death of the Republic, honestly, because then it led to like generals becoming the main power keeps. Well, this ties to Marius, but we can't stay here forever talking about Roman politics.
Yeah, we could. There's a podcast out there. It will take you about a year to listen to all of it. You can go.
You'll learn all of this. But anyway, those same two factions are the same factions that Pompey and Caesar were part of and ended up fighting their civil war. Like those exact same two names. Populares and the other one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of similarities with mostly what came to my mind was the populist mob violence.
Just like the disconnect between, I think like kind of like the disconnect between like upper class power with kind of like how the general public feels about a lot of it, combined with mob violence, like just like the idea of like
true, the wealth disjoint,
normalized violence too. Like I remember like what like kind of like the stuff Trump was saying during like the Unite the White rally. I always bring that up because it's one thing like that resonates really well with my memory. I always remember it whenever I think about this type of stuff. Because I always remember what he was saying. I was watching the news when he said it. Like it was like, oh, it was like both sides. Like we denounced the violence from both sides. Both sides were doing the violence, and what he was talking about. Because people wanted to denounce the Unite the White rally, which was like a white supremacist march in the area. I think it's Virginia, where one of the supporters drove a car straight into a crowd of counter protesters, and so that's why people were putting a lot of pressure on Trump to denounce the white supremacists, or like that kind of like movement. But then he like only ended up making like kind of like a general denouncement of both sides, and it like really hit people the wrong way when he said that. Like that type of
and I think he also said something like there are great people on both sides
and then like his stuff
later in the speech.
and then like he started like
Maybe
hard
that was a different
focusing.
speech. I don't remember.
I think it's the same thing, but then I completely forgot about Antifa too. Actually, like he like named them as a terrorist organization.
Yep.
Just like normalization of like really like more fiery rhetoric, and then even violence. Like the Capitol storming, I think is just the aftermath of that rhetoric. Honestly, in some senses, at least.
It also seems very unbalanced too. He would seem to go bend over backwards whenever there was rioters that were in his favor, but would call any rioters that were not in his favor against him, he'd call them terrorists or something like that.
Yeah, it's like it's just once it becomes normal to say that rhetoric, like once you pass that point, which I think is why the Tiberius Gracchi example is such a good one, because it kind of like it broke those normalized taboos. Like like there was a crisis that happened, a societal crisis that happened, and then in that like kind of like point of weakness,
I feel like we were headed that way as a country, and I think Trump accelerated it. I'd put it that way.
Like I think it's important to
because
note that
for like a long time now, like over a decade, we've already had like that dynamic in our discourse, like the public discourse, but the politicians generally didn't ever like get involved in endorsing or denouncing mob violence. I mean, they would denounce mob violence, but they would denounce it evenly, or if it was their side, they might just not say anything about it.
They would never get this popular.
Yeah.
Like
but like it's been in our rhetoric for a while now that like, well, it's okay when we do it. And I think it was just inevitable that was eventually going to get into politics. But I would say Trump accelerated that progression and has made it happen a lot quicker.
Yeah, like I think it's important to always point out that Trump isn't the origin of everything that's happening here. Like all of this dates back pretty significantly to like plenty of things you could argue for where the origin point comes from, either from societal, socioeconomic to historical. Obviously I have a bias towards historical, but like
I guess that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah, everything plays a role, absolutely. Like but then like what you were saying, I think you described it pretty perfectly. Like Trump helped kind of move that ball a little forward with just how well he managed to advertise that type of rhetoric and then winning the election too.
And honestly, I don't know the way back from it. It's pretty worrying.
Yeah, that's why
we'll see.
The next 4 years are really important.
I think
honestly, I really wish that we could have a third party be even mildly successful. I think people underestimate the impact that a third party would actually have on our political discourse.
Sorry, were you going to say something, Matt?
Yeah. What was I going to say? I was going to liken the Trump as an accelerant to like kind of like rust. You know, if you heat something up really hot, rust is going to form, but it's not the heat that's causing the oxidation to happen. It's just accelerating what was going to happen eventually over time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think Trump is like that, and that analogy, and the rust is like what we're seeing now.
It's what was happening. And it's a symptom of something else. Maybe just the nature of republics. I don't know. That's more fatalistic. So I'm not a very fatalistic guy, but
yeah.
I really think I think a third party would be good. It would give a reference point, even if it was like a shitty third party that was just sucked and didn't make any sense and nobody liked it, but somehow was still popular enough to challenge the other parties. Like any third party would be good as long as it was actually a real challenge to the other parties, because it would give a reference point, and it would put those parties in a context, not just on this straight line. And I think it would be a moderating force. Any third party, even an extreme third party, would be an overall moderating force.
Honestly, Marcus, I feel like that feeling is so pronounced in American politics. The idea that, like, for the most part, people are just, is the term apathy? Is that what I'm trying to think of? Like, there's just like so much apathy for the two parties. I think at this point, like the establishment structure. That, like,
I just think it's so. I mean, they're honestly not actually all that different from each other.
Yeah, that's why I think there's just so much apathy that, like, people just want something different, which is why I think for the most part it allows, like, it just, like, it allows them to gravitate towards something that feels different, just because, like, oh my god, it's something different, and he's talking about stuff I want, or she's talking about stuff I want.
Yeah, and well, it would also put the parties, the other two parties, in context of a third reference point, and you'd be able to see that things aren't as extreme as they seem, I guess. Because right now, like, the extremism, I think, is what's really getting to us, and how everything is so high stakes. I mean, like, all the fucking political text messages I was getting about vote this year. What about it was like the fate of the nation, and ergo the world is on the line.
Oh yeah.
Like, the texts were so intense.
Yeah.
It was like, shit, if I took this seriously and I was getting these texts, I would go fucking
like,
crazy.
Stop the spread of like it can happen here. Stop the spread of Nazism. Stop the Nazi. That type of stuff. I was getting shit like that. I was getting stuff like that from my friends.
Yeah, there was like, and it's not a joke. People are texting you actually thinking, hey, yeah,
that, like,
of course we're going to become more extreme if that's the stuff that's going on.
It's true.
And you're constantly, I was getting a text like that a day.
Yeah, like, that's what I mean by,
for
like,
months.
Normalized public discourse. Like, once that rhetoric comes in, that doesn't go away easily. Like who knows the type of people that might run, like, just during the midterms or something like that this year. Like, the type of voices that are easier to hear now, that would usually be, like, complete outsiders. Because, of course, these types of voices or figures always existed within American politics. Like, you could probably go back to, like, the 80s or 70s and see somebody say something just insane in the Congress that's, like, on tape or something like that. Or, you know, that amazing story about that guy that, like, beat a guy into, like, the hospital or to death prior to the Civil War or something like that. He just caned the guy in the Senate, just pummeled him. Like there's all sorts of stuff like that. Like, it's not, like, those things aren't, like, new, but the fact that it's popular, like those voices, like, a person that has kind of stated, like, all sorts of rhetoric that a Republican moderate candidate, like look at Mitt Romney and then look at Trump, is what I'm trying to say. Like, that, like, when you look at the rhetoric that they're saying, it's just that type of rhetoric managed to get him into the White House. So, like, then it kind of, like, so then as, like,
people latched onto it as, like, because there's also in our country a recognition that there's tons of corruption in the political system, and at the end of the day, we're fucked. Basically, like, as a people, as the American people are fucked because the system's actually against us. And you talk to most people, and you ask them if you think that politics is rigged and it's all, like, stacked against the average person, they'll say, yeah, that's pretty much the size of it. And Trump was a response to that, in that he was saying, yeah, I'm going to drain the swamp, I'm going to do this and that, I'm going to clean up business in Washington. And people were like, yeah, let's give it a try. I mean, it literally can't be worse than being screwed from birth.
Like, do you want to hear a fun historical story?
People are so desperate.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. Like, when you get so cynical about the establishment structure, you're going to go towards outsiders. Like, it's just like, I can't get anything out of this, or, like, even the stuff you want, you will never get it. So then why stay there? Like,
I mean, George Carlin talked about this a while ago. You know, Like, half of George Carlin's sketches, he brought up how the fatalism in politics, and people, like, it was a joke and people laughed, but at the same time he also wasn't joking, and people were kind of laughing like, haha, yeah, that's true.
They laugh because it hurts.
Yeah. They laugh because they related.
Yeah, it seems.
Sorry, what's up, Matt?
Yeah, both parties have forgotten how to how to appeal to the average person. I mean, Democrats like to pronounce that they are the party of the working class. Spoiler alert, they're not. They're really not.
No, Trump picked up that.
Yeah.
That's what actually, that's why he won in 2016, and why it wasn't surprising at all when he did win, is because he would hit Hillary from the left consistently in the debates. And that's why I really don't think he won this time. At the end of the day, I think that he didn't win because he wasn't using that populist working class rhetoric as much. He didn't really do it at all during the debates, and he never hit Biden from the left. And I think that's why he didn't win.
Seems like he was trying to moderate himself a little bit during the election. Like, he started going to like kind of like those catch-all phrases, combined with like a lot of stuff saying that the election was going to be rigged, almost to the point where he anticipated he was going to lose.
Yeah.
Or just like create that like narrative, that self-fulfilling prophecy, maybe too.
I think he, and to some extent, I think he did it kind of on purpose with that rhetoric. Like I think he was trying to plant that seed to try to convince people later on, even if he did lose, when he eventually did, he could convince people on his side that the election was stolen from him.
Mm-hmm.
Kind
of create a stab in the back myth.
Oh, good reference. Yeah, absolutely. Like, played to something that people already suspect.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier to swallow.
Well, it makes it easier to swallow because the primaries were a joke for the past 2 cycles.
And then, like, the initial voting where they're talking like, oh, we had the lead, then we lost it. And then, like, just, like, the constant saying stuff like that. Like, of course, everybody, like, I feel like for the most part, people know, like, why they had the lead initially. But
well, it's not just the... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jen.
Oh, no, mine's done. Go for it.
The thing that Matt was saying earlier about how the parties forgot to, like, how to talk to the people, I think it's mostly, like, they don't need to know how to talk to the people. Like, the people don't... Because we have this 2-party system, and honestly, the ads and stuff like that carries most of the weight anyway. They don't need to know how to talk to the people. They need to know how to talk to the people that are going to give them money.
Yeah, they got very comfortable with their
the big donors. Yeah,
it's the political machine. They got very comfortable with how the public perceives them because it kind of became like almost like factory mill, basically. So then, I guess they just weren't really expecting an outsider, and then once that happened, it's like they tried to kind of mold the establishment around it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure whoever wins the presidential election at this point is just the person that has the better hype campaign leading up to the election. Because everyone that's going to vote Democrat is pretty much already going to go vote Democrat, and everyone that's going to vote Republican is already going to go vote Republican. If they've already picked their side, it's whether or not they go and vote. And that's where your hype campaign matters.
And the people that could vote, but choose not to vote, election cycle after election cycle.
And that's even assuming... sorry, Mike.
So if you're a political party, I think which side wins or not is basically boils down to if you could convince the people that normally don't vote election cycle to election cycle because since both parties to them are really the same thing, they're not going to represent them at all. If you can convince them to vote your side, you'll dominate every election cycle forever.
Yeah.
If you can talk them over.
If you're a Democrat, and you convince those people, the people that normally don't vote, to vote on your side, then you'll squash the Republican side for every election cycle, and vice versa.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have really short attention spans, so you need to reconvince everyone every election cycle.
Like,
yeah.
they have to fight against the constant swill of political apathy. Like, my natural state when it comes to politics is don't pay attention to anything, but at least just try to understand a little bit of what's going on. Like, but don't get into it to the point where you can actually care. Like, that's my natural state. I just like, oh, it's McConnell. Oh, it's Biden. What is he gonna say? And then he kind of says some old man type of gibberish, and then I'm just sitting there like, yeah. Then I like that's like my natural state of things. So that's why I'm so used to that feeling. Honestly, I feel like I can't make my brain think something else, except unless I make myself do it.
And then you get to the point where it's like, does it even really matter which side wins? Top of that,
I hit that point so naturally that it's so hard to fight against it.
I don't even necessarily bother fighting against it.
Exactly.
Because I'm not sure it does. I mean, the big ticket items, like our foreign policy stuff, that's not gonna change really.
We will never touch that.
And they'll always disagree during the campaigning season, but when it comes to the decision of whether to actually, get out of the Middle East, we're not going to get out of the Middle East. When it comes to the topic of immigration, we're generally going to be against immigration, regardless of whether left or right candidate gets in. Even though left is always like, oh yeah, immigration, that's fine. Like, it's not actually going to have movement because there's other interests at play beyond the party lines, Yeah.
And
that's really what counts, because as we talked about before, it's like, it's not really the people that they need to convince.
Like, there's
it's
not
the
enough,
people that are giving them money.
There's not enough political clout in the public, in their eyes, to make us actually take precedence over their major wealthy backers. Like, we don't have enough. There's not enough punch there for them to actually need to care, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah. I think a good recent example of this is in Georgia. One of the big campaign promises that the two Democratic candidates, Warnock and Ossoff, I think, promised was, quote unquote, $2,000 checks for everybody there.
Where was this?
But it looks like
Georgia.
During the Georgia runoffs, that was one of their big campaign promises. It started with after the House and the Republicans and Democrats passed a bill to give everybody a $600 relief from the coronavirus, and then Trump, the next, just before after they signed it, said that's $600 is not enough. We got to make it $2,000, and caused kind of a rift within the Republican Party. Those supporting him and those not.
Well, wait, wasn't it
after?
Are we talking about the this most recent $650 stimulus check?
$600 check.
Or was it 600?
Soon after 600?
Wasn't it? Also, Nancy Pelosi got in there and talked him down too. I don't think it was just a rift in the Republican Party.
Yeah, it was a bipartisan stimulus bill that they finally managed to kind of get through the door.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, yeah.
Yes. But Trump, immediately after it was passed, the next day, Trump tweeted out something like, "That's not $600 is not enough. We need to up it up to $2,000."
Yeah, he was specifically.
Well, that was his original plan. I believe his original plan was for a larger bill.
No, it wasn't.
That was when he talked about
remained
it right
silent
there.
on
I remember seeing that speech because he posted it onto people were reporting on it, where he was bringing up how in that bill they were providing so much more money to other countries. That's what he was saying. He was using that as an argument for why America needs more money, but then it's like the whole reason why that's the case is typically because they bundle bills together. So
Yeah.
like maybe like defense spending, like support funds or some crap like that is built into the Corona like relief bill, where like that's why the $1 million are going to Egypt because they were supposed to send that money to Egypt for like the next annual quarter or whatever.
The $650 is really just a fucking joke, but
I wasn't even going to talk about that. I was talking about in Georgia. So Trump kind of undermined that bipartisanship immediately after that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right?
Mhm.
Right now, I agree. $600 is a joke. So immediately, Democrats went on to that, latched on, said, "Yeah, we really should bring it up to $2,000." That was the rhetoric that the Georgia senators were using, the Democratic ones, as a campaign promise. Then, now finally, there's a proposal by Biden, but instead of $2,000, it's $1,400. They brought it back. It's like, congratulations, you just fucking shot yourself in the foot.
They're like, it's just they know the conditions in the Senate. That's the problem, right? Like, they know
that's not even a big ticket item either. That's the funny part.
It's just the Republicans are going to like Mitch McConnell's in a really good position to try to. He can easily gridlock Biden's 100 days if Biden really wants to like push forward like student like debt relief and all the other stuff that he has proposed. So that's why he knows that he needs to in some way moderate his position further to make sure that the Democrats don't, like the Republicans don't like do some like crazy stuff to gridlock him and stuff like that, because they're in a good position to do so, and like anybody would do it in their position.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one interesting thing about that though is that one way to bypass that Biden could take is the thing where what I remembered was amending the 2021 fiscal year spending bill or something like that. That, because it was already passed, what I've heard is you don't need the filibuster doesn't apply or something like that, and you'd only need 51 votes to actually amend it.
They could probably like start making arguments that they're like cheesing them or something.
Yeah. Apparently, the Georgia voters feel betrayed, according to some polls,
because they said they were going to get 2,000 and they're getting 1,400.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, to be fair to the Democrats, I suppose they are putting in some other stuff to help small businesses. So I think that's probably why they're shifting the funding from $600 a person to other stuff for small businesses and other stuff like that. And at the same time to keep the total costs low to get some bipartisan support.
Yeah, because they need some semblance of bipartisan support. The last thing they would want is to actually get like their first bills to only pass because of a Kamala Harris tiebreaker. It would make it sound like the Democrats are enforcing their will upon the Republican Party.
And these fucking blanket, everybody gets $1,400. What?
Yeah.
No,
the problem though is
you tax me more than that, and then you give some of it back. Why?
Yeah.
What? Give someone who actually needs it. Shit. Fuck off. I don't know, man. Everyone just wants to donate mine. Because it's so fucking stupid. It's just so unbelievably stupid to me for the government to give me $1,400. They tax me more than $1,400 a year. Get the fuck out of here. I don't know. That's like a pretty privileged position for me to take, I guess. But like, I don't need it. Give it to someone who needs it. Like why are you giving it back to me?
Like, you would care more if it was actually like a focused relief bill. Like a much more focused
It's useless.
Relief bill. Yeah.
What is anyone going to do with $1,400? They'll live for another little bit. Not even that long, depending on where they live. I mean, if you live in Minneapolis, that will pay for like 2 months of living. Maybe. Yeah. Maybe 2 months of living. What are you doing? Give them way more than that. Like, someone who's actually down and out, living in a big city, $1,400 is absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
it's insanely nothing.
In fact, isn't it insane too that it used to be $600, even like less than half of that too? And now they're bickering over whether, should we do a one time at 2,000 or 1,400? Like, bitch, it should be like for the people that need it, like $2,000 a month.
How about some sort of like housing relief too? I don't know.
Or like what is it, like rent relief? That was like a big thing. Like
rent relief. Or like the people that like deadass don't have a mailing address for you to send the check.
Oh my god, yeah. Or like
how about helping them? Like they don't have a job and they're homeless and they're on the streets during a pandemic, and then now it's winter. Like what? Like
yeah, I understand.
I don't even want to imagine what a homeless shelter looks like right now. Like they're already like high capacity. Like you need to be 6 feet apart from each other in a homeless shelter, and you're giving me $1,400. Why? I don't understand. This is so absurdly stupid to me. It actually makes me a little bit upset.
And a one-time payment.
Oh my god!
I should add too. It's not even. Yeah.
Yeah, and it got talked down. Yeah,
it's incredible.
Unbelievably
first 600.
Stupid.
First 600, then 2,000, and now, which is already woefully low, just a one-time $2,000. Now it's getting even more diluted.
Yeah. Oh, I kind of popped off there, but Jesus Christ.
Oh, hey, it's all good. I mean, like, generally speaking, it's just not providing the aid it really needs to be able to provide for people that need it, is what I'm getting out of what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and, well, also, like, how about whatever amount you pick? If you tax that person more than that, don't give it to them. Give it to someone else. Like, it's so frustrating to me that they take this money out of my paycheck and then give it back to me. Why?
Yeah, as a one-time installment. Yeah.
Well, they give it back to me, but yet like you tax me more than that. It's weird. It just is so strange to me. Why don't you give me a tax break or something like that? I don't know.
They want instant stimulus, Marcus.
And it's not like it inspires getting $600. It's not like that inspires me to go spend money either. Like honestly, I just save it, or maybe like this bigger one, I'll probably donate it.
Yeah, because they're not looking at you to spend it. They're looking at like maybe 60% to spend it in a way that moves it. I don't know. Like honestly, like a lot of that type of stuff is usually because they just need somebody to spend it right now, like a good portion of it to spend it to kind of like, I don't know, like move the economy in a way or something like that. It's usually how I remember people talking about it to me.
Yeah, I don't think I'm spending any more than I would have without it. I don't know many people that are, honestly. I don't think it actually inspires people, especially not like something like $600. I'm like, cool. I like have a extra $600 in my savings.
Yeah.
I guess like for people that really need it, they're like, I guess I can spend this on proper nutritional value.
Yeah, like actually
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to the? I've heard some rhetoric from people I know that are saying, "What about me making XYZ? I'm not getting a $600 something check. Why am I getting nothing?"
Oh, exactly.
Oh, like if they followed my rant there and only gave it to some people.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what if they're saying? What if for those few people that, or those, I don't know, I shouldn't say few, but
like
people that are still doing well despite the pandemic, and let's say they go above the threshold, whatever the threshold for
aid is,
their salary is, and they get nothing. What if they bitch and say, well, wait a minute, well, I'm getting nothing. Why should that chump over there get something? They didn't save very well, and now they're out in the streets. But I saved very well, and I'm able to survive. Why should he get something and I get nothing?
That's what they're trying to avoid, probably by giving it to everybody. Unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would
that.
say
Yeah,
tough. You don't get unemployment, I guess, and other people do. You don't get
yeah,
like there's a ton of stuff that the government provides to people unevenly based on uh, economic status. So I guess I'm just a socialist. But, or don't give
yeah.
the stimulus. I don't know. I guess they need the stimulus check to boost the economy, but it just seems. I don't know what I would say to those people. Tough titties.
Because I've met several. Yeah,
Um,
you call them what? Oh, because I've met several of those people. Or I've seen that kind of rhetoric before. Don't get me wrong. I don't agree with them. I think it should be targeted.
yeah,
It should be to the bottom, like 50 or 30% or whatever, that are really, really life and death struggling to survive.
Well, they're the
out
ones
there.
that need it more. So yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah. Just speaking for myself, I'm in a very, with Marcus, I'm in a very privileged position, I suppose, because if I get $600 or not, to be honest, it literally makes no difference to me whether I get $600 or $2,000 or not.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's
And
probably better they
yeah.
gave it to everyone than give it to no one. It's like barely better though. They should.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly the amount. I mean, if they gave a larger amount to everyone in the country, that would have been fine too. But it's like people that don't need it hardly notice it, and people that do need it, like, don't notice it because it's so insultingly little that it makes so little difference in their lives.
Yeah, because
Like, they can live for 2 more months.
like they need
Like,
like some actual proper, more consistent aid to actually be able to survive.
and I guess there's the bonus like unemployment stuff. But let's say you're employed to, like, but you're scraping by because there's standards of living that are not met even if you have a job, and then you're not collecting unemployment. I know a lot of people that actually like lost their job during the pandemic and started making more because of the bonus unemployment. So that's
Yeah, but
nice.
there's a lot of rules behind unemployment too, though.
I think it's probably good that Biden's raising the minimum wage.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you look at
Supposedly, we'll see if he actually
Yeah.
manages to.
to get that through. Yeah,
if you look at the cost of living as versus the what the wages are now, have stagnated over the last like 40 years, I believe, and the cost of living has gone way up. Dad and I did this calculation. We compared my starting salary for me straight out of college to his starting salary, and it turns out to within like $1, they are exactly the same when you take into account inflation. No joke.
So for context, because
But,
I'm
yeah.
monkey brain right now, what exactly does that mean?
What that means is the cost of living has gone way up, but because the wages have not gone up to reflect that, it becomes a lot more difficult to live now than it was, financially speaking, than it was 40 years ago in the 80s.
Because your dad,
my father
because
graduated.
your dad's starting wage is basically the exact same thing you got, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, when you take inflation into account, but the cost of living back then was a lot lower. Again, taking inflation into account versus today.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. I just wanted to make sure I understood it.
Yeah.
People are needing as much high fructose corn syrup, so food costs more. I don't know, shit like that.
Yeah.
Food's more expensive, rent's more expensive.
Cars, luxury goods are more common as a purchase. Probably.
Yeah.
Healthcare, car insurance,
God, yeah.
college.
Especially, college is very...
It basically costs as much as a house to go to college, assuming you have no financial aid of any kind.
I've had to set up Obamacare for my parents and my and myself like in the past couple months, and we had to do unemployment. And, like all that stuff is new to me, so I'm probably like doing it all wrong right now. But like, I really hope I'm still following everything correctly. But it's just weird because like everything all the stuff they ask me now, like they ask me, "Oh, have you taken unemployment?" And I like, and like unemployment like benefits. Have you? I just don't. It's gonna be my first tax season doing unemployment and stuff like that. So I'm very curious what exactly is gonna happen because I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's a little disconcerting, but yeah, it's weird.
Speaking of taxes, I'm going to have to worry about that for the first time ever this year.
This is only from the first time that I used it, but my brother also recommended it. I think last year we used H&R Block. That was pretty easy. Like it was much more straightforward than I thought it would be, is what I should say. But like, my brother recommended that, and I trust my brother's opinion on this type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, because we're young and single. Well, single meaning I don't think any of us are married. We don't. At least for me, I don't have any real assets. So, yeah, my taxes compared to what my dad has to do is going to be a lot easier since my dad is a small business owner.
Oh, really? Oh, that's cool. I think have you brought this up before?
I don't think so. But yeah, my dad founded his business 9 years ago. It's 2012. After he spent some time at Boston Scientific, and he had to learn a lot of stuff by hand. He had to learn how to a lot of accounting stuff for his first few years. It was kind of trial by fire is what I would call it.
Yeah. Tax laws are complicated. I don't even have complicated taxes, and I struggle through mine every year. Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah.
Jargon. Gotta love that jargon.
Shouldn't that be a bipartisan or a non-partisan issue, though, simplifying the tax code? There's got to be some redundancy in there.
Well, I feel like
it's got to be a better
enough
way.
people. I feel like probably like certain bases of influence benefit from a complicated tax code.
Oh, it's the complicated tax code was
like the whole
generated by lobbyists, almost like exclusively by lobbyists.
It's to deliberately cheese certain stuff. Yeah. Like it's designed with a purpose to.
They figured out they could make a lot more money giving it like a few $100,000 to a politician's campaign, and then having all these fancy tax breaks that are specially tailored for their business. They made a lot more money that way than paying taxes.
Yeah. Because sorry America, but our tax system is fucking retarded.
It's
with a capital R. I mean, wouldn't it make so much more sense if the government would calculate your taxes for you, send you the bill, then you can either say no, you're wrong, here's documentation to prove it, or you just shut up and pay it.
I think what Marcus was gonna get is designed to troll.
Like every other fucking bill on the planet.
Oh my god, yeah.
Nope. You need to figure it out, and you need to pay them the money. And if you're wrong, they're gonna come after you.
They will arrest you for a federal crime.
Oh, you forgot. You missed that. But yeah, it's the system's bought and paid for by people with money.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can make more money based on the fucked up tax code that they jury rigged.
Yes.
By lobbying politicians and giving the politicians money. I don't like lobbyists. If you can't tell,
I think it's one of the portions of kind of like the American political structure that's like the most like open to our just plebeian eyes to how it actually runs, and it's just really depressing to look at it.
the lobbying structure.
Yeah, like because it's like the most public view and way that we can interpret into how it's run actually.
Well, you can just see that because most campaigns, like political campaigns, have open books. You can see the donations and see like, oh shit, this company gave them like $1.2 million or something.
Yeah, and it's just so
or maybe not that much, but
but it is public. You can see it exactly. Like you can just see like, oh yes, corporate buddy, yes, right there. Do you see that, son? Corporate buddy.
Oh, Target just threw that much money at that politician. Oh, that politician's arguing for this fucking policy that will directly benefit Target.
I wonder why. The head scratcher moment right there.
I mean, nobody here works at Target, so I'm not going to get you in trouble, right?
I mean, I work as a retail guy at Target, but nothing.
Target's like, you're fired.
Nothing will cause me to be purged from that job. It's like such an expendable job.
Target, request your location.
All of a sudden, I get a call from Liam Neeson.
Whatever. Even if you get fired from Target, just I don't know, go work at like Walmart or Amazon.
Unless I get like,
I don't know.
Unless Matt, they put me on a blacklist because of that or something like that. But yeah.
Shit, forgot about that.
They're like, don't touch this guy. He said something. Oh God, he said something.
He called me a meanie poopy face on a podcast that maybe a couple hundred people watched.
In total.
Yeah, ever. Maybe someday.
Ruin us.
I sure hope we someday get to a couple hundred people listening to this.
That'd be amazing. Oh my God. But yeah, I think we covered a pretty healthy amount of topics today. Got into some nice fun tangents.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything's bought and paid for.
Yep. We got the
politics
check.
is a joke. Yeah, we're all screwed.
The riots.
Look up George Carlin; he'll tell you.
George Carlin's a phenomenal comedian. I recommend him too.
I just think it's insane that like you talk to most people and they'll acknowledge that it's a sunk system. Like everything's bought and paid for.
This is pretty.
It's like common knowledge. It's crazy that it's such common knowledge, and everyone's just like, "Yeah, that's fine."
It's a pretty significant consensus in American in the American public about how much they kind of despise the structure of the establishment, but then we just kind of like, but the talking point is just so strong that like self-interest plays such a role into how we feel about it even afterwards, while still honestly, being like super like self-aware of what they're doing.
Watching these debates, it's just like it looks like a sports broadcast. Like the commentary honestly just reminds me of sports commentary.
Oh my God!
Just watching football.
The greatest irony of it all is that, at least theoretically, we the people have the power to change it too.
Yeah, we're slowly giving up that power, like willingly, though.
Yeah, we're supposed to be the absolute check. Like,
yeah. Literally, all we have to do, again theoretically, is just not simply don't vote for the people that are bought and paid for. Just vote for the people that promise you they're not going to do that.
But what are their names?
Actually follow through.
You don't see them on the news. No one else is going to vote for them. What's the point?
Yeah.
Well, and I have this party, this party is the lesser evil. So,
guys, if we keep
whichever
like this,
party,
if we keep talking like this, I'm going to actually get convinced to storm the Capitol.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Whichever party I'm talking about right now, they're the lesser evil, so I'm gonna go for them.
Yeah, they suck 100% of the time. I only suck like 80% of the time. Yeah, like 90% of the time, and you got to vote for me because I only suck 90%.
Look, they suck 100%. Honestly, it's come to this, right? It's come to this. It's like he's walking in. It's like a complete failure of like a person that you've known for so long, and he's saying to like, listen, buddy, before you say anything, just listen to me. That guy sucks smart. Like that's what it's basically ended up being.
Yep.
Oh.
And then the third party comes in. Yeah,
the third party. Good old third party.
We just need
someday.
Let's just shatter both parties. We just need a multi-party system. I need pluralism.
Yeah, it's try and convince the majority of America, because apparently, didn't we talk about this on a previous podcast that apparently we need a majority of the Electoral College to even like get a president elected. Otherwise, it goes to the Senate.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yes.
That
Yeah, but
really lends itself to a two-party system. It's so weird.
It's just like it's so
Yeah, I brought
ingrained
that
right
up
now.
before.
Like, it's just like it would take something truly incredible to break the establishment in such a way.
Even if you get a minority majority, so like you have three parties, you get 34%, and the other ones are less than that, or whatever the fuck. Then it goes to the Senate, and then whichever party's the majority in the Senate would then put their boy in office, not whoever got elected.
Oh, that's what you mean. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I agree with you then there.
Because there's too much party loyalty even within like the elites of all the parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have a Democratic majority Senate, then you're gonna get a Democrat. You'd need to have a majority, or a majority in the Senate, or at least a large part of the Senate for that third party, and you'd need to get the other two parties to have less than 50%.
Funnily enough, and maybe kind of in a more depressing way, this kind of ties to the Nazi Party in some ways, because the established parties were basically so hell bent on not allowing the right wing or like the extreme left wing, because the extreme left wing, for obvious reasons, they were already beating the crap out of them and like fighting them off in the streets. But for the fascists and Nazis, and also in a serious way, they didn't want them to be part of a coalition because that would legitimize the extremely right wing parties in Germany. But then the Nazi Party got so big, and so I think they got like enough power within the Weimar Republic eventually that they needed to to have their attention on them as a political force within the Reichstag. So that's kind of like an example of what you're talking about. I guess is a point where you need like an outsider group to not only establish itself but be in a position to have to be noticed, not lose its momentum. But then it's unfortunate I'm using such an extreme example, but that's the only example I could think of.
Yeah, you
I'm not trying to.
You weren't just role playing when you were playing Hearts of Iron, huh?
No, never.
Going full send Nazi.
Every country I play as in Hearts of Iron, Marcus, I believe in their ideology fully.
It can lead to very confusing internal conflict.
Every
I'm sure.
single one of them, I believe in with all of my heart.
You must have a very fun brain.
Oh my god! But
I feel like.
What's up, Matt?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was talking over John.
No, it's good. Go for it, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like though, if we adopted a system where instead of an absolute majority of electoral votes is needed, some like a relative majority is what I'll call it, like the 34% example.
Mm-hmm.
If we did that, I don't know for sure, but I think the reason the founders did not do that was because they wanted whoever became president, they wanted them to really represent the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore they wanted a future president to be forced to change their rhetoric in a way that would get 50+% of the populace to support you.
That makes sense.
If you don't even have 50%, how can you claim to be
represent the country?
Representing the other percent. So if you got 34%, how could you claim to be representing the other 69%?
Yeah, I definitely won't ever be on this podcast saying positing a change to the Constitution, at least not in any foreseeable future, because I don't even claim to be close to as smart as the Founding Fathers or as well researched in political philosophy as the Founding Fathers.
Constitutional law.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be yeah, we should change that, because clearly that doesn't make any sense. I mean, they probably had some pretty damn good reasons, because they were political philosophers,
and not even them only, but also all the many other intelligentsia and legalists that would analyze and then even modify from a state or national or constitutional level our policies from 1776 all the way to 2021.
I mean, like, I know a bit about Roman history. The founding fathers, like, seemingly were religiously well read on not only like previous Roman political history, but also like political history from all over. So
Yeah.
they clearly knew what they were doing in terms of politics. They probably knew better than me.
Yeah, we're just venting about current modern problems, and just overall just venting.
How to use the system that those very smart people came up with to address current problems.
There's a couple of things. With that being said, I think there's a couple of things that I might change if I had the chance.
Yeah.
But not to change anything fundamental, but to kind of answer some long-standing constitutional questions. One, for example, might be an amendment saying a president cannot pardon himself.
Yeah, that one is like, it is like I can understand it from like a national stability mindset, but yeah, it's from the times that it's been used, specifically the whole Watergate one with Ford, and then yeah, I think probably Trump's pardoned quite a few people, right? Hasn't he? Like for his last day, didn't he pardon like a whole bunch of people, like Steve Bannon and stuff?
Yeah, he pardoned like over 100 people in his last day.
Like, it went pretty ham.
Yeah, that's like it's a little sus, is what I should say about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right sometimes to look at it.
That one person can just be like, "Yeah, you're fine. You're good to go."
Yeah, I can kind of, in like a very absent-minded mindset, see it as like a way to ensure that there isn't like some kind of like crazy aftershock if like the country's in crisis and like maybe a president had to make some extremely difficult decisions.
So Matt, you're saying like a checks and balances on the pardon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
the presidential pardon.
I don't know about but I don't know what that would look like beyond what I already said, but I think one thing that needs to be on the table is a clarification on can the president pardon himself of any criminal
you mean like
wrongdoing?
Not like pardoning other people, but like pardoning himself.
Yeah, Matt was specifically like when he brought up his example, he was talking specifically about a president pardoning himself, which yeah.
That right now, it's never been tested before.
Does that happen?
Thank God.
No,
but,
Gerald R. Ford.
No, but we got perilously.
So what happened with Nixon was he resigned, and then Gerald R. Ford pardoned Nixon, if I remember correctly, is what happens.
Yeah. Yep. And then, supposedly Nixon was thinking about pardoning himself. The Office of Legal Counsel under the DOJ presented an legal opinion, saying that was unconstitutional because it would violate the general consensus that no one can be a judge, jury, and executioner for themselves. And reportedly, Trump was also considering doing the same thing, but especially since he has put, I think, 3 Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court, I don't know if they would go with that OLC opinion or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and I think that would just be absolutely damaging if that did happen. If the Supreme Court ruled, actually, a sitting president can pardon himself.
So one hell of a precedent.
Yeah. So I think it does need to be on the table, one way or the other. That question needs to get resolved to the no side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree.
What other changes, if you have them off the top of your head?
I can't really think of any more off the top of my head than that. I think that's really all the kind of changes that we would need. Some clarification on some long-standing constitutional theory.
Is that comma supposed to be there? Are we supposed to have the right to keep and bear arms? I don't understand.
This is like usually this type of stuff is actually like debated and discussed. Like a lot of like very significant court cases kind of like lay the precedents for many things that we have now, like Miranda rights is an example, or like kind of like conditions on when things can be applied. Like I think there was a court case in Texas during the Reagan presidency where a guy burned a flag there, and it was stated there at that court case that like burning a flag is like a portion of your First Amendment rights. That's like it is like something that you as a American are allowed to do, and is protected under the First Amendment or something like that. Like there's
why it was really shocking when Trump said that people should go to prison for burning the flag.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like those
It's
type
like,
of
okay.
there's a lot of those type of things where like there's always like cases where they like further expand upon constitutional law with court cases, because if I remember correctly, U.S. law is like heavily sways towards precedents, like what other cases concluded on. So that's why like so that's I took one U.S. law class in college. I wish I paid attention more because it was so interesting, but I was a lazy crap when I was taking it. But
man, I wish our AP Gov class was better.
Honestly,
in high school.
Yeah, like I really wish I paid more attention to some of my classes, even in college, because like I feel like I could have learned a lot more.
Honestly, maybe like I was mostly asleep during AP Gov, to be fair, but I also heard that it was like.
Well, I can tell you, as a lazy person, I was paying attention to the classes. That I didn't get anything out of class, if that's what you're talking about right now.
I recall from when I was awake, I recall him flipping through like 15 slides and then like slamming on the board.
Yep.
This is important. You need to remember this.
Yeah, that
and then like
no, he was terrible.
flipping through 10 more slides and then stopping and then doing that again and being like, this is important.
I learned plenty from honestly, like just from a material standpoint, like paying AP CP. Like just like the general information was actually like the institutional information that I remember paying attention to actually helped me a lot with my other comparative politics classes in college and stuff like that. Like I just directly applied the stuff I still remember from that class to those in plenty of cases, and it actually helped me out a lot. See, government, I got nothing out of it. I got straight up nothing out of it. From his teaching, I should say. I didn't get anything out of it.
I got some good laughs. I got a imprint burned into my mind of dick bulging out of his pants. Other than that,
I learned what not to do as a teacher in some cases if I ever be one.
Not that ever like whipped it out, but like man is well endowed, or he wears a nut cup. One of the two.
It was in front of his face. I was napping, but not like
I was napping in class, and then like one day I woke up and my head was just at crotch height, and I was like, "Whoa, Jesus Christ!" Hopefully, Mrs.
Calm down, dude.
Okay.
Oh my god.
She walks straight.
I think on that note we should call it, guys.
On that note.
On that note, stay safe, everybody.
Don't get Ebola.
Learn more about the Constitution, because clearly we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, we don't know what the fuck we're talking about. This is important. You need to know this.
Yeah.
Flip through 10 more slides.
Yes. Skim the slides.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
I hope you all enjoyed listening, and have a great day, night, or whatever the hell.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.